Did you know that every time you sip a mojito or a daiquiri, you're drinking something born from mutiny, scurvy, and naval warfare? That fancy cocktail in your hand isn't just alcohol. It's liquid history, steeped in blood and rebellion. The year is 1655. A British sailor stands on deck, waiting for the daily ritual that made the brutal life at sea bearable, the rum ration. Little did he know that this daily dose of liquid courage would eventually transform drinking culture around the world. Let's wind the clock back to the 16th century, where the mighty navies of Europe faced an enemy far deadlier than cannon fire. Fresh water, or rather, the lack of it. You see, dear viewer, water stored in wooden barrels quickly became a breeding ground for algae and bacteria. After just a few weeks at sea, sailors were essentially drinking green slime. Most ships carried more beer than water, not because sailors were party animals, though many certainly were, but because alcohol killed the bacteria that made water deadly. But beer had its own problems. It took up precious cargo space, and it too would eventually spoil. When the British captured Jamaica from Spain in 1655, they discovered something far more practical. Rum. Rum wasn't just a drink, it was a revelation. Distilled from sugarcane molasses, rum had a much higher alcohol content than beer. It took up less space and lasted virtually forever. The Royal Navy quickly switched from beer to rum rations, and a relationship that would last over 300 years was born. Now, imagine yourself as an ordinary seaman aboard a British warship. Your daily life is brutal. Backbreaking labor, horrible food, the constant threat of battle or disease. But every day at noon, the ship's bell would ring, and you'd hear the most beautiful words in the English language, "Up spirits!" This was the call to collect your daily rum ration, half a pint of pure, high-proof Caribbean rum. That's roughly 8 shots by today's standards, every single day. This wasn't just a drink, it was currency, comfort, liquid courage, and social glue all rolled into one. Sailors would save their rations for special occasions or trade them for favors. Some would even save up multiple days' worth for a proper bender when they reached port. But this generous rum allowance had a dark side. Sailors would often down their entire ration at once, leading to drunkenness, fighting, and accidents. Many a man fell from the rigging after collecting his spirits. In 1740, Admiral Edward Vernon, nicknamed Old Grog for his grogram cloak, decided to address this problem. He ordered that rum rations be diluted with water and lime juice, served twice daily instead of all at once. The sailors were furious at first, mockingly calling this new drink grog after the Admiral's nickname. But this accidental cocktail had profound effects. The lime juice in grog helped prevent scurvy, a vitamin C deficiency that killed more sailors than battle. And without realizing it, Vernon had created one of the first widely consumed mixed drinks in Western culture. A proto-cocktail that would influence drinking habits for centuries. Taste, dear viewer, is memory in disguise. Every time a bartender adds lime to rum today, they're unconsciously echoing Admiral Vernon's practical decision from nearly 300 years ago. But the story gets even more fascinating. As sailors traveled the world, they encountered new flavors and ingredients. In the tropical ports of the Caribbean, they discovered fresh fruits and local spirits. The grog evolved. Sailors added coconut water when fresh water was scarce. They muddled in whatever fruits were available: limes, lemons, oranges, pineapples. In the culinary annals of mixology, this was revolutionary. These sailors weren't trying to create art. They were making their daily medicine more palatable. Yet in doing so, they laid the foundations for what we now call cocktail culture. Let's pause for a moment and consider the daiquiri, that refreshing mix of rum, lime juice, and sugar. Sound familiar? It's essentially grog with better marketing. The mojito with its rum, lime, sugar, and mint. A grog that went on vacation to Havana and never left. I've traced the lineage of over 40 modern cocktails back to naval rum rations and grog. This isn't just dinner, it's drama. A drama written in spirits and citrus, performed across centuries and oceans. The rum ration wasn't just changing drinking habits, it was changing world history. During the American Revolution, rum was so important that George Washington insisted on rum rations for his Continental Army, believing it essential for morale. When the British blockades cut off molasses imports, it became a serious military problem. Rum was so central to early American life that candidates would provide it freely during elections, a practice known as swilling the planters with bumbo. Political campaigns were essentially rum parties, with the candidate who provided the most generous drinks often winning the most votes. It's no coincidence that one of the first crises of the new American Republic was the Whiskey Rebellion, a revolt against taxes on spirits. Americans weren't just fighting for their right to drink, they were defending a liquid that had become central to their social and economic lives. Back on British ships, the rum ration tradition continued well into the 20th century. Every day at noon, sailors would line up for their tot of rum, now reduced to 1/8 of a pint. The officer would call up spirits, and the purser's steward would emerge with the rum tub, guarded by Royal Marines to prevent any unauthorized access. But all traditions eventually end. On July 31st, 1970, a day now known as Black Tot Day, the Royal Navy issued its final rum ration. After more than 300 years, the Admiralty had decided that modern warships with sophisticated equipment couldn't afford to have even slightly tipsy sailors. Sailors wore black armbands. Some held mock funerals, carrying a rum barrel draped in black cloth. A centuries-old naval tradition died that day, but its legacy lives on in nearly every bar on the planet. While naval rum rations disappeared, the cocktails they inspired exploded in popularity. The tiki craze of the mid-20th century took the basic rum drink formula and embellished it to fantastic extremes. The Mai Tai, Zombie, and Singapore Sling all trace their ancestry back to that first diluted rum ration. Even the ritual of happy hour, that blessed time when drinks become more affordable, has naval origins. It derives from the scheduled rum ration time when sailors could briefly escape the hardships of naval life through regulated drinking. The modern craft cocktail renaissance we're experiencing today owes more to British naval policy than most bartenders realize. That $18 artisanal daiquiri with house-made lime cordial and single estate rum? It's the great-great-grandchild of a practical solution to water purification and sailor morale. Next time you're at a bar, look around. The limes, the mixing of spirits with fruits, the very idea of diluting alcohol with flavorful ingredients rather than drinking it straight. All of these practices that we take for granted gained momentum through naval rum rations. But there's one last twist to our tale. The same naval traditions that gave birth to modern cocktail culture also nearly destroyed it. When sailors brought their drinking habits home, they contributed to widespread alcoholism that eventually sparked the temperance movement and prohibition. The very success of rum led to its vilification, from essential naval supply to prohibited substance in less than 200 years. A dramatic fall from grace for a spirit that had helped build empires. It all makes you wonder what other everyday items around us have equally dramatic histories. That coffee you drank this morning, the salt on your table, the pepper in your shaker. In the history of food and drink, nothing is ever quite what it seems. And as for what happened to all that naval rum when the rations ended, well, that's a mystery for another day. This isn't just history, it's still happening. Modern navies may have gone dry, but in remote harbors around the world, old sailors still raise their glasses at noon and whisper, "Up spirits," connecting our modern world to an age of wooden ships and iron